It is the Christmas period. Arne Slot will be waking up on Christmas Day, manager of a football club that is top of both leagues, Champions and Premier. The question is, what is on his Christmas list? I'm going to ask the panel to present two things that they think he'll be looking for, not necessarily to receive on Christmas Day, but with the January transfer window is looming as well. Maybe it's part and parcel of that. Dan Club, I'll start with you.
Okay, I said exactly this last year. I'll start with this one. And it's funny how fast forward 12 months and the same applies.
You repeat yourself, mate.
It's not, but here we are. It's invincibility for Diogo Jota and Ibrahim Konate.
Like that.
I've got to choose another one now.
Sorry. Because I believe Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Ryan Gravenberch has put himself in this conversation in terms of the importance to what Liverpool can or cannot achieve this season. But I think if you keep Jota fit and you keep Konate fit, that goes a hell of a long way. And ultimately, they're the two that historically have the most problems out of our squad. So
yeah, absolutely. I like a bit of that. We'll come back around for your second one, Ben. What's your first?
I was going to say the same specifically for Ibu, because I think up front we're okay. I think much better when Jota comes on against Fulham and scores a brilliant goal. But I feel like we've got more options there. I feel like we're a little bit light at the back. I would go though with, in terms of the forward line, I would get 10 goals from Darwin Núñez between now and the end of the season. I think, and maybe that's a little bit, short.
It's like my kids asking for a Ferrari. Santa can only do so much here, Arne.
But
not a miracle worker.
I think that we're reaching a stage now where I think there are some big question marks around Núñez and what will happen with him in the summer. And I think if he can come on and the chaos is fine, but I'm sick to death of kind of clinging on to that. I think I would like him to come on and be clinical. That Newcastle performance 18 months ago, whenever it was now, I was so expecting to kick on from there, but he's not really. Mm-hmm. And I would just I think he's got that ability to come on potentially and score some really important goals for us, and that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. I think that's the kind of thing where, if he's not going to be the main man, can you be a wild card like he can be, and be that? Can he be our Federico Makeda moments where he crops up with some mad goals to win games for us? I like that.
Yeah, I'm going to go boring first up. Unlike me, I think I'm usually the festive one. The contract thing, get that boxed off. First of all, Vinny O'Connor can stop fucking asking him about it. Yeah. You can tell he's getting on his nerves. Poor Vinny's having to find new creative ways to ask the same question, and he's getting the same answer. Dan was right to reference earlier on the show. It hasn't become an issue yet, but it might.
It will.
At some point, it will. If it gets to March, April time, and there's a big game, and these players have got half an eye on somewhere else, or there's they've already signed a pre-contract or whatever, all three of them. So I think if you could ask Arne for anything right now, transfers, whatever, I think he'd say, get me contract signed, all three of them, get them done and dusted, and I'll be relatively happy. Especially Salah. I think he's the key. Get him tied down. It looks like him and Van Dijk might be the easiest of the ones to do in terms of what we're hearing, but I think he definitely those two. If he can keep Trent well, fantastic. I don't know how optimistic we are on that, but again, credit to the three players, the professionalism of them. It hasn't become something yet, but you get the sense that it might. So get that sorted. Don't let it become an issue.
If they don't sign, then it will be added scrutiny, because you're then getting into your body language experts start to come out again. And United had this with Pogba, and we all did it back in the day with Steve McManaman.
Trent got against Fulham, mate. Yeah. Trent everyone's running back and he's jogging. Like Trent already got it last week. Yeah, you could do without that.
First for me on Arne Slot's Christmas list, and maybe not in terms of priority, but from what I've gone for, Federico Chiesa. I think he would really like to have him as a footballer.
Is that the ghost of Christmas past at the moment?
Yeah.
The ghost of Euros past.
The ghost of Arthur Mello.
Yeah. He's just there to sort of torment him at this point. He crops up every now and again, unexpectedly crops up at Axe's training ground. He's like, oh Christ, it's Federico Chiesa. What is it you want from me, Spirit? And he's like, can I just have the rest of this training session off? He's like, oh God, all right, sound, yeah, no problem. I would love dearly, and I have such low expectations at this point, and not because for any malicious reasons behind it. I know some people get a bit wound up by these things, cough Errol, but I just want him to be able to give Salah some respite. Like, I just let Salah have 15 minutes off now and again, and half an hour off, and that League Cup doubleheader that we've got coming, which is spread over a month because fixture scheduling. I would love Chiesa to be able to play like a significant role in both of those games, meaning that Salah does not have to play in them at all. He's more than capable of being a really good player for Liverpool. He's a really good player, but the fitness thing, he's such an unknown quantity. So I'm not saying, there was a brief conversation in the summer of like, maybe, he's 27, going 28. There could be a point if Salah goes that he could be Liverpool's right winger next season. None of that. Like that is science fiction at this point. So I just want, and it's a very small ask. I'm not asking for for the world for Christmas. I just want Chiesa to be available to play in football matches for Liverpool for Arne Slot.
I was slightly alarmed yesterday that he wasn't in that squad.
I get it though, because I think what it is, Dan.
And Trey Naoni was in it.
Yeah, but I can see why. If you think about it logically, Endo is on that bench as defensive cover, isn't he? He's not on the benches as midfield cover because the only defender we have on the bench, really, you've got Gerald Kwanzaa, centre-back, and you've got Kostas, haven't you? I think he needed it. Kwanzaa is effectively your right-back cover as well at this point. Yeah. I think if Endo's your centre-back cover, Kwanzaa's your right-back cover, Tsimikas is your left-back cover, Naoni has to be your midfield cover. Because you can't
be Elliott in the mix as well?
As...
Midfield cover.
Yeah, but he talked about him as a right winger the other day, didn't he? So
yeah, but
I see a point.
I will just from personal point of view, if he was fit and available and wasn't selected on that bench, that feels odd to me.
Didn't they only do the full 90?
No, he came off 84, something like that.
If that bodes well for him.
Listen, I love Trey Naoni.
Naoni's fully fit and capable, and maybe that's just part and parcel.
Chiesa got 45 in that game midweek. He can't be a million miles away. I find it, to 27-year-old, if I was Federico Chiesa and I'm 27, having done what I've done previously for Juventus, Fiorentina before, Italy, and Trey Naoni's getting selected, and Trey Naoni is wonderful. I don't need to tell you how much I adore that kid as a footballer, but that is a little bit like, that's a bit odd.
We had it in the year though, didn't we? We had Endo left out the squads, Tsimikas got left out of the squad. Liverpool got a big squad. If Bradley and...
But Trey Naoni was never in.
That was my argument. It was like, no, because we've got enough players there to change the front three, so actually it is very attack heavy, so that's to your point. But it's Trey Naoni, he's a child, and Chiesa's a 27-year-old Italian international.
Yeah, but if you've got Nunes and Jota on your bench, you can't have three lads who could only play in your front line.
But we own them all, so at some point they're going to have to be.
Yeah, but
otherwise he's just never in the squad.
Yeah, but there's always someone injured.
It would be more concerning if Jadon Danns was on the bench. Instead of Naoni.
I would argue Trey Naoni is such an attack-minded 10 type midfielder. The Chiesa and him isn't a huge difference when it comes to in positioning. I just found it a bit weird, and that's me.
Do we think this could be a bit like Klopp with Sturridge of like he needs to learn the difference between pain and real pain kind of thing, where I know he's got to get him back to fitness, but there's also got to be a little thing of, I don't know, I'm speculating, but it does make you look for conspiracy.
That was the one thing from the whole entire yesterday when it went, hang on, that's
I saw David Lynch's tweet and it was along the lines of it was a squad selection issue because of the balance of the bench.
Yeah. Okay.
I see your point, but I'll choose to take his word. This is the problem people are going to have, and this is why.
And it's a good bum.
When I did the show on the build, I was like, if you don't play Jota or Nunes from the start, you've got two centre forwards on your bench and no wingers. So then maybe Chiesa gets in, but then Liverpool have got defensive issues. So if Konate and Bradley are available, then Gomez is on your bench, and then therefore Naoni doesn't have to because Gomez can. It's the shuffle. And also, I think you're right. I think if Liverpool got an injury in the 20th minute and had to make a sub, obviously he doesn't think Chiesa can play 70 minutes, and that is a concern.
But it's definitely one to keep an eye on for. Right, Dan, number 2.
The free contacts move one. I would go transfer market shock horror, and it would be an additional deep line playmaker 6 type. Because Van Gravenberch has been out of this world, like absolutely out of this world. His performance yesterday was that of a Rolls Royce 27-year-old, been doing it for years, just phenomenal. And he's done that time and time again. And I mentioned earlier on, like, that's become the norm really for Van Gravenberch now. So take absolutely nothing away from him. I don't want to see him stop playing forwards. However, what happens when it isn't him is kind of the point. And there will be times, maybe in game, maybe to start a few games, where he can't just keep playing 90 minutes week in, week out, because he hasn't really done it a lot in recent seasons. He still, as mentioned, only 22. And the alternative right now is Wataru Endo, who I love and want him to stick around. But it's just different. Curtis maybe, but then if you have a problem further forward, Alexis McAllister's back from a suspension recently. Szoboszlai might have problems along the way as well. I just think the DM options are Wataru Endo, who's brilliant, but stylistically and profile-wise, very different. Tyler Morton. Now, I want to see Tyler Morton, as a caveat to this, I think Tyler Morton goes and plays football somewhere, proper football, because he's played like 2 games this season. It's not enough. So let him leave on loan and sign one.
DM position, because I was tempted to say left back, and I don't know if anyone's gone with that. Sorry, Ben. No. Step on anyone's answer. But the thing is, we own 2 senior left backs, so you have to do something there. Whereas, whilst we own loads of midfielders, it's quite clear that Endo and Morton are there to make sure we've got bodies, but they're not really in the manager's first team sort of plans.
And both of them play the Accrington Cup game, and then the potentially in the first leg of the semi-final. They're certainly within that conversation. After that comes quite early in January, both of them. After that, you have a conversation about Tyler Morton for me.
I think it's the only place in the squad where you're not comfortable with backup options.
Yeah,
Liverpool's B team, if you put it out there. And listen, this is no knock on Endo. I actually think Endo's had a good season, doing what he does. He just doesn't do what Arne Slot wants that player to do. So I agree. If like as Zubimendi, for example, if he fancies it now, he's changed his mind and the mountains aren't that good anymore, or something, like maybe he is the option. And you'd almost have to do what we did with Luis Diaz. You'd have to carry 1 extra for 6 months, and then say to Endo, we'll see you later. Like maybe look, Tyler, go and have a loan. Endo, you're soz mate, but you're here for.
Well, that happens with Tyler Endo. I think in the summer you could have that conversation with Endo. I think you could easily, if you went and bought Zubimendi or Belieber, whoever it may be, you could easily say, Tyler Morton, go and get your football now, mate. Thanks for sticking around, thanks for doing a job for the squad, training, etc., etc. But you go and play 5 months worth of footy.
The fact that McConnell's back as well, he's floating around. He's another one. That's actually another player all of a sudden that's in that mix who's played defensive midfield, played midfield for Liverpool at senior level, who's probably too good to just hang around and play under 21s and not get first team games. So yeah, it's definitely an area. I like that one. Ben?
Maybe a little bit of a cop-out because we've kind of already worked our way into this position, but I think he would like the schedule to be as kind as possible, to also continue to be. We've worked ourselves into this position now where the last 2 Champions League games kind of don't matter, and you can do that rotating there as well. And then also we're not going to play a playoff. But then when it comes to the round of 16, I'm just looking at the Champions League, that middle section now, you've got teams like Atalanta, Benfica, Bruges, Celtic, PSV, Dynamo, any of them in the round of 16, just to continue that we've got Accrington in the round of, in the third round. Feels like years since we've had a League 2 side at home in the FA Cup third round. We're always away at fucking Man United or somewhere like that. So I it's not necessarily something you can control, unlike going in. And I did think about the transfers, but I think the problem that we've got is now, I would love to know whether Gravenberch has changed his position, because he clearly wanted a deep line playmaker in the summer. Obviously, we all know that. But is that player now a lot more difficult to profile? Because if you're buying a Zubimendi for however much they're going to sign for, and I'm Ryan Gravenberch, I'm going, well, hang on a minute. I've completely made this role my own.
And if you're Zubimendi, you're thinking, am I going to play?
The competition suddenly worse. So what you're actually looking for, and maybe January is a good time to do this, because to go out and buy top level starters, nailed on starters, January is tough to do that. What you're looking for is an Endo a little bit better. Is it actually the right time to maybe go and make that kind of sign? I mean, look, we've done it in the past, haven't we? We obviously signed Virgil in January, we signed Diaz. I'm not saying it's out of the realms of possibility, but I think a left back is even harder, because you're looking at the likes of Robinson or Aït-Nouri. Those teams aren't going to want to let their players go in the middle of the season. So I think we'll get by. But I don't know really. I don't know enough about across European football who's out there that can fit that mould of he's good enough to play for Liverpool, but he's not. I wouldn't say that the need for somebody like Zubimendi right now, maybe in the summer, is as important as it was 6 months ago. And if
you're him, you look at Ryan Gravenberch and, well, I'm not going to play.
Of course. I don't think it's him for it.
And fair play to Ryan Gravenberch, he's in. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard for anyone to get in the team. So
the alternative to all this is as well, and I know this creates issues in other areas of the midfield, but Ryan Gravenberch could get moved further forward and be even better. And all of a sudden, you're like,
we've got bodies there. We've got Curtis, we've got Alexis, we've got.
But you always think you've seen what it looks like until like I remember me and Steve having a year of arguments of between Karius and Mignolet, and by the time Alisson comes in, you're like, God, what were we even doing? What was that? What was that conversation?
I was still right for the record.
I disagree, but it's they were both, as it turns out,
arse.
Average goalkeepers, which is fine.
Were you team Mignolet?
Yeah, but it's.
I like the lad who sometimes saved it.
But yeah, that's I think you don't know until you get someone, and then because Curtis Jones Stones wouldn't have been in people's consideration 2 years ago, and now he's right, and then people are raving about his performances and so on. Go on, Steve. What's your final one?
Yeah, I don't know if the correct way of phrasing this, and it kind of rolls into what we said earlier about the Tottenham 3 goals. I think he would quite like Liverpool to stop conceding goals away from home. I think like the away form has become a little bit of a concern in terms of the amount of goals they've shipped. 3 at Newcastle, 3 at Tottenham, 2 against Southampton. And it's mad because it doesn't ever feel like we're defending particularly poorly in those games, and maybe it is just as simple as well as Joe Gomez has done and whatever, Kanate is just that much better, and maybe it's just getting him back fit and available. But I think he would like to get that'll bite you in the arse sometimes, you know what I mean? At some point, you can see 3 at Newcastle and 3 at Tottenham, you're lucky to come away with 4 points. You should get no points. Yeah. So I think that's definitely something you'll be looking at and why that's happening. Again, I go back to the early conversation, the Tottenham ones, the second and thirds probably don't worry you as much, but the 2 at Southampton and the 3 at Newcastle will definitely be something that's kind of on his radar for sure.
I was very tempted just to say Stefan Bajcetic and just let people fume about it in the comments, because that by proxy means Liverpool aren't going to go and spend money in the January transfer window, whereas the reality is Stefan Bajcetic might be the answer to everything we've said. He's fit, he's been playing well for Salzburg. The manager's gone. This might just be that perfect time and sort of moment where you get him back in.
Can I have a third wish, like a genie?
I've not done my one yet.
I thought you just done it.
No, I said I'm not picking Bajcetic.
Sorry, apologies.
I'm just
you did that thing where you told your point but didn't use your guess.
Gives me 3.
He's a seasoned pro. He's been doing this for a decade.
A lot longer than that. Yes, I'm just gonna play to the crowd, and it's the simplest answer. Arne Slot, top of his Christmas list, Premier League title. And I know that's should be on every single Christmas, but this is a shot. You just don't know. What are the odds that Man City have a season like this? There's every chance that this might be the end of them now, because we're seeing how bad they are, and they might not be able to, they might buy badly, and Rodri might not come back the same, and Walker's done, and
points ban for next season.
And he's done loads of people's heads in, and exactly 115 charges, blah, 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 blah. But I think we'd all expect City to just be fine again next year. So then you're back to the world of needing 100 points to win a league title. You're top of the league. You've got a points gap there. You've got a game in hand as well. Just get a Premier League title, and then just that's done. You've boxed that. That's not a millstone that you build. It's not a 5-year plan like Arteta and Martin Keown going, he might be 2 years away from his finished team. No, mate, he should be winning the league title this season. He's had years to get it right. This should be the one. For Arne Slot, for me, gave him above all else, and maybe it's a combination of all the factors we've sort of discussed there. It might take all of them, but whatever it takes to get that man a Premier League.
Very quick, get Conor Bradley fit will be one. I think that's a big one, because you can rest and rotate Trent, and you can. I thought Bradley pre-injury was getting to a point where he was playing just as good as anyone. I think he's going to be a special player, and I think Liverpool could do with him with all these fixtures that Ben mentioned coming up. Get Bradley back as soon as you can.
Especially if the Trent thing drags on, because that is about to. You were talking about it before. The narrative on that is about to go up a level, because we are. I don't know how much it means really, but because we're about to enter January and suddenly that's where the narrative is going to change to. Not necessarily that it's going to matter to the players, but constantly now Sky every week going to be like, well, now they can negotiate with foreign clubs.
Yeah, it's already. They're counting it down on Sky Sports News.
The Bradley thing I think is important, because, and I think in regards to Trent, how much we see of Bradley in the second half of the season, I think will be quite telling, as to where that is.